Hey everybody, it's Brad with another Floriani Total Control U video for you today. And today we're going to be playing with TrueType fonts that we import as artwork into the program. Some fun things we can do. The project that we're going to be doing is something like this, where we create a applique type object, although it's going to be a glitter vinyl that we use as the applique material, with a drop shadow that comes down like you see in the image here. And the top stitch here can be all kinds of different things. We're gonna show you a couple different ways to approach that. And what's neat about doing this on heat transfer vinyl is you don't have to cut anything because it'll just tear right out and be really easy and simple and clean. So let's get started. First thing we're going to do is in our My Floriani Today, we're going to click on Create a New Design. So we left click here. And what we're going to do when we get to our design field is up in the top left area of the screen, you've got your text tool. And this first one is your standard text tool. This tool brings up the lettering options that are built into the software. Like if I go in here and I look at these are all fonts that came with Floriani. These are, when we select one and hit apply, this is stitches right now, right? If we take this and sew this out, it's going to do a satin stitch, filled in letters like this. And it is possible to bring in a TrueType font this way. So if we put a check mark here next to the TTF, then it's going to look instead at the fonts that there are on my computer that are not embroidery by default, but are, things like Times New Roman and Comic Sans and Impact and things like that. But if we bring in a font this way, it will automatically turn it from a just like an outline file, that is what a font file is, into a digitized design like this that has satin stitches and everything like that. And that's not how we want to bring in our TrueType fonts for this project. What we need is we need to start with just outlines, and then we will apply stitches to those outlines ourselves. And the way we achieve that using the fonts that are just built into our computer is in the text tool, instead of choosing this first one, you go all the way over to the end, import TTF artwork. Now, you may not have this one off to the right here. If not, you can just ignore it. This is because I have a plugin that you might not have called Lettering Master. But this is the one we want. It's got an outline of the A with an arrow pointing to it. You're going to left click on that. This little menu comes up. And from here we can choose what font we want to do this with. Now, a good choice is going to be a font that is thick. Like, if we want to be really simple here, we could just do Arial. And then in the style, we could go and choose black, which is the thickest outlines you get for the Arial font. And we just say OK. We type in whatever word we want to say. Like if I was going to do like a mama bear or something like that, I can do that and hit OK. Okay, and so now we have mama bear in here. We could let's see, we could grab the bear and put it underneath the mama if we want to. Let's see, I want to size that relative to this so that they're kind of, both of these are about the same size. Okay, and let's see, I'm going to grab both of them now and make the whole thing bigger. Right now this is only 2 inches wide. This works best if whatever you're doing is fairly large. So we're going to scale these up. Now we got a little under 8 inches. I can make it bigger than that. Let's see, grab this. Whoop. Grab this corner here, drag it up, make it even bigger. Okay, cool. And so now we've got our letters. This is looks like a little over 10 inches wide here, a little over 5 inches tall for this whole design. So that's pretty big. Now, the way we go about getting our drop shadow in is incredibly simple. All we have to do is duplicate the design. That's basically it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and I'm going to left click on this little icon here. This is the duplicate button. And if you left click it one time, it will just create a copy and move it down and to the right of whatever you had selected. And the first thing I want to do after I do this is change the color. I want to make this a different color than my first set of objects. It doesn't matter what color you pick. you know, we can always go back and change it. But now what we're going to do is we're going to move these letters so that they are kind of above and to the left of our original letters. And you can kind of already see what this has done for us. We've got the drop shadow already, because what a drop shadow is essentially is just an exact copy of the original artwork that is offset slightly. And when it's done in something like Photoshop, usually what you'll see is it'll be kind of like a diffuse shadow effect, which, you know, we could try to make something like that by making the edges jaggy or something like that. But for the purposes of what we're doing here, this is actually kind of perfect. So we can monkey with this. So if you don't like your initial positioning, or you want the shadow to be thinner or thicker, you can grab and move these. It would be a good idea to probably group this so that if you were to accidentally click off of it, you could just, you know, click on any one of these letters and select all of them. The way you do that is by right-clicking anywhere while you have, you know, this whole second part selected. We're going to right-click anywhere, and we're going to choose Group. Okay, and then we could go up and grab this entire section here and group them too, so that if we needed to move them all at the same time, we can. And that way we can just grab one and it'll move everything, rather than, you know, and it'll have to go and reselect every object. But you move them around until you are satisfied with the way that your design looks, and then it's very simple to get these guys cut out so that we've got just the part that's showing on the ones that are underneath. But what it will do is it's going to mess up the order that everything is in. So kind of our grouping is going to go bye-bye when we do this. So essentially all we need to do is select everything in the design field right now. So I could hit Control A, or I could click and drag a box around everything, or anything like that. And then we're going to right-click anywhere. As long as everything is selected, right-click anywhere. And then we go over here to Transform Artwork, and we simply choose Remove Overlapped Artwork. So if we choose this, Remove Overlapped Artwork, then what that's going to do is it doesn't really change much visually over here. Okay, but if we go and look in our sequence view, we can see that, you know, this shape is made up of these parts here, right? So that's pretty interesting, the way that that has cut that up. Now, what I want to do is I want to gather up all of the red letters here, and it's basically the letters that are solid letters. We want to gather up all of those, and we want to move it so that those all sew out after everything that's blue. And I think the easiest way probably to do this is to go in and hold down your Control key and just left click on each of these letters, and then you'll have to scroll down, and then it kind of brings you up to the top. I'm holding down Control again and left clicking. See, that brings me back up to the top, and then I'm scrolling with my mouse wheel down, and then hold down Control key and select again. You know, unfortunately, the color sort option doesn't work when things are artwork, and I don't know, I feel like doing this while it's artwork. So anyway, all we have to do now to move these so that they sew out second is to right click anywhere. My right click sometimes, yeah, this mouse is kind of tricky. And then what we're going to do is, once we get the menu here, we're going to move and choose last. And that's going to take so that it's now separated all the blue and all of the red here. Okay. So now at this point we've got our blue, and if I move this over, you'll see that all of the parts that are overlapped are gone. Okay, so it's just kind of the shadow is what we have there. And what I want to do for this shadow part is I want to turn this whole thing into just a basic fill stitch. Now, you could do both of these with vinyl if you wanted to, but I'm going to do this with just a basic fill stitch. So the way we do that is with this whole color change selected, we go down to this purple star here. We're going to left click on that, and boom. now that is all filled in. Okay, now if we put this in 3D, we can see the 3D effect there. Okay, and I don't see any issues with that. That looks like it should be fine. And then for the red letters, we are going to do something different with those. Now, I want to have a piece of vinyl just laid down over this. So it's going to sew out this fill first, and then I want to go on every piece, on every letter here. I want the vinyl to be covering over it, and then I want the stitching to kind of cut out the heat transfer vinyl. We're not going to actually use it as a heat transfer. We're just using it for its glitter properties. But we put that vinyl down, and then we're going to have it sew out a fill that just traps the vinyl down and keeps it from being able to move. And it also needs to have a stitch that goes all the way around the letter so that it actually cuts the vinyl out for us. And there's a way to do this in just a single step that is very cool. Well, it's not exactly a single step, but you'll see. The tool that I want to use for this is called the Mesh Fill, and it's found down here. This is it, Mesh Fill. And if we left click on this, what it's going to do is go in and put down the basic mesh stitch. And what a mesh stitch is it's a stitch that's going to, if we watch it sew out here, it goes kind of in one continuous line. There's no trim inside any of that. It just goes as one continuous line inside of each shape. And that works really good for what we want to do here. We don't want to have a bunch of, we don't really want to have like a bunch of shapes sewing out one at a time. It ends up getting kind of too dense. So I found that in my experiments, the best way to do this was with this, but I also don't want it to just be a horizontal line. So the basic mesh fill does this, where it's just a single horizontal line, or you could adjust the inclination if you wanted to. But the best way to do it is actually to go in here under stitch type and hit these little three dots and change it to a different style of mesh fill type. But there is a bug in the software currently that makes it so you can't do all of it at once. So watch this. If we click on this and then we change the pattern to, let's say that I want to do this just cross-hatching. That's what my sample that I showed you was, is just the standard cross-hatch like this. And we say, okay, it only actually applies it. Oh, okay, well, in this, yeah, here we go. It only actually applied it to one. It applied it to this one here. I don't know why it is that it only does it to the first object in the sequence, but it does. Like I said, don't know why. So what we end up having to do is select each object manually and then go in and set this. So not exactly one step, like I said, but we go in here and we set it for each and every one of these. And I'm just going down in sequence in the sequence view here. Okay, and then down here to bear. I don't know why it put mama backwards, but it did. We can change it if we want. It doesn't really matter that much. And now the E. Okay, and the A. And the R. Okay, just like that. And so there we have it. Now it would be nice if it had done that all in one step, but you know, it is what it is. So this, we'll put it in 3D. This is going to sew out, and it'll cut out that vinyl for us nicely, and we'll just be able to tear it right away, and then we'll be left with this effect here. Now, notice this is a different font than what I just did it in, and you can use any font that is a TrueType font that's on your computer to create this effect. And the way that you would go about getting some more fonts to do these types of things with, one of the best ways, I think, and if you've seen my videos before, you probably know where I'm going to go with this. But if you go to dafont, dafont.com, there's a lot of fonts on this website. You just go in and you choose your category. So the one that my sample was in the Groovy category. It was a font called Keep On Truckin', this one here. You would hit download, and then open the downloaded zipped folder. Find the file that says TTF, or sometimes it may be OTF. Double click on that, and just choose install. And it will go ahead and install that font into your computer. Then when we go into Floriani here, I'll just go ahead and make a new page. I could do this same effect now. I go in and I'm going to use the import TTF artwork. I'll just do the same thing, Mama Bear. This time for the font, I'm going to go in and hit select, and I can scroll down, or I can just start typing here. If I type in, I know the name of the font, Keep. See, you can search for them that way. Click on that, and I'll leave this on bold because I want it to be as bold as possible. We'll say OK. Mama Bear, that's the same phrase we had before. That works for me. Okay, we do the same thing. Grab this. I'll put it down here. Let's see, we'll scale this so that they're the same width. Oops, I misclicked, so I have to click and drag a box around it here. There we go. This mouse that I'm using is kind of weird and sensitive, so it's hard to click accurately sometimes. Now we'll take this whole thing, we'll size it to the size that we want. We could also go up here to transform, and we could tell it directly what size we want. I'll put this in inches because this is America. Set this to 10. That's what I want. I want it to be 10 inches. It could be whatever I want. Hit apply. There we go. Look at that. Now, if we want to not have these guys touching, we could move them away a little bit. Just the kerning of this font put the A and the R overlapping one another. And if I wanted to, I could now go and size this down a little bit to compensate for the fact that I just adjusted the spacing. It's up to you. But here we go. I'm going to take this, select everything. Remember what I did? Duplicate button, this one right here. Left click on that. We're going to change the color. We just need them to be two different colors. And then we're going to use this is going to be our top layer. And we just move it so that it is kind of above and to the left. Or, you could have the drop shadow going any way that you want. Okay, so, I mean, don't let me tell you how to do it. You can set it whatever you find to be visually appealing. And this can be narrower too. We could have more or less distance there. It's however you like. And then once we've got this, we're going to remove the overlap. So we go in and select everything. We're going to right click, transform artwork, and remove overlapped artwork. There we have it. Remember, once again, we have to go in and manually pick our stuff that's this color. Okay, and then we're going to move it so that it sews out last. We want these to sew out second because it's going to put our shadow down first. So we're going to right click. Come on, mouse. Right click. There we go. I got to get a new mouse. Choose move. Set it to last. Okay, that splits these two colors. Now we're going to take this one and we're going to make it into a fill stitch. Now we could try doing it as a satin stitch if you like. If it's narrow like these are, that might actually work. So if I hit that, let's just see. Yeah, I mean, that would probably work okay. I'm still going to do it as a fill stitch though. Now, notice all these jumps there are everywhere. I'll go ahead and address those when we're done. But let's go down to the next one. Now I'm going to show you a different way to apply that mesh fill. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my first letter. So for some reason it's doing the B first now. I'm not really worried about the sequence necessarily for this. But I'm just going to grab that. We're going to go down, do our mesh fill on just the one letter. Then I'm going to go up to stitch type, and I'm going to go and change that. And it doesn't have to be this one. If we want to do something fun and silly like this, where it creates like a wave crosshatch, that's totally fine. Or this one, or anything you like. Click that, hit OK. Make it however you want it. Now, what we're going to do this time is we're going to right-click on our B, in this case, and we're going to choose this, Copy Settings. And what this does is it allows us to paste all of the settings. So rather than click this button and then click this button on each of these, we can go in and click on each one of these, right-click, and choose Paste Settings, and it will apply those settings. Oh, it doesn't work on artwork? Ugh, that's so annoying. You know, the last time I tested this, the way that I did it was I went in and I set everything to be a mesh fill. And then I went and I thought, why don't I use paste settings? It turns out that that only works when it stitches. So anyway, it's still going to work. We're going to right-click and choose Paste Settings for each of these. Although, wait a minute. It seems like it copied the wrong setting because I had chosen before the wavy version. Okay, right-click, copy setting, right-click, paste setting, and it doesn't. Oh boy, yeah, you know, sometimes this software, boy, I tell you. Okay, so much for giving you shortcuts. It looks like it's easiest just to do this and go in and paste that setting. Instead of pasting that setting, just go in and pick that setting. You know, if anybody who works for Floriani watches this, you should fix that. That's really annoying. And I'm just going to go in and do all of these. It's what I get for saying something without testing it first, though. I do it all the time. Usually I'm right. All right, then we're going to get down to here. Okay. All right. And then the last one. Okay. Now I want to show you first a little magic trick that you can do with the software that allows you to quickly adjust both the sequence and the start and stop points in what is usually a more reasonable manner than not adjusting the sequence and the start-stop points. The software actually has an automatic tool for doing those things. I'm going to go ahead and select all items, and what I want to do is first go up to this button here that says Sequence. We're going to left click on that, and that's going to change the order of the way that things sew out. And we just wait. Okay, and we see that the jump stitches have moved around. And then we're also going to go here and do Optimize Entry Exit, and that will move our start and stop points between each of these objects to be as close as possible to one another. And that'll get rid of some of the jumps, but it might not get rid of all of them. So I want to show you a way to 100% definitely get rid of jump stitches in objects that you don't want there to be jump stitches in. So let's say that this, let's see, do we have a jump stitch coming off of you? We do, coming from there to there. And what we can do to make sure that there's no jump stitch when we go to sew this out is if we click on this fill here, right? We go up to our properties, and oh, I have my properties actually set to display in words. Yours might not be like that. Your properties may be showing symbols if you haven't changed that. And the way that you get to that is in Program Preferences. I think it's under View. Yeah, use icons on property tabs. Uncheck that box, and that'll look like mine. Or if you like the icons, you just leave it checked, and then it'll look like that. I personally like it to tell me in words what each one of those is, though, so I'm going to leave mine the way that I had it. Anyway, we're going to tab over here all the way over to Commands, and on End Command, if we change this from Normal to Trim, that's going to force a trim there. And then it's not going to actually have a jump stitch. Now, I know it looks like it does, but it won't when you go to sew it out. So that's pretty cool. So a lot of these where it shows you that there is a jump stitch, you don't actually get jump stitches when you go to sew it out on some machines. But if you take the design and bring it up on your machine and you see jump stitches on the design preview page, that means that it's going to have a big jump stitch there. And that's how you get rid of it. You go in there, you select the object, and you go into Commands, and you tell it that the end command for that object should be a trim. And yeah, that way you can get rid of those jump stitches. A lot of times you'll actually see real jump stitches in 3D mode, ones that the machine is not going to trim. But it depends on your machine. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But anyway, if you have jump stitches that you can't get rid of, that's one way to do it. Okay, another thing to know is that if you don't have a digitizing style set in your preferences, like I have this PK knit is the setting that I have, which I find works well for most things. And again, the way you get to that is in your preferences under formats and default style. I recommend this for general digitizing, PK knit. It's a whole list here. PK knit iDigitize works for a lot of things. But if you don't want to do that, if you don't want to have a preset style, the value for pull compensation here, I'm going to go ahead and select just this fill. This is the one that needs to have it on this design. The mesh fill doesn't need it. But we would go here to pull/push and change that to 0.4, 0.5, pretty good setting for this for most things. Put it under absolute and set it to 0.5, and then in push compensation, if I were setting this myself, I would just leave this alone, but the PK knit setting applies a 0.4 millimeter push compensation for the letters. What that does is compensate for the amount that the fabric is pushed away from the direction that the stitches are going. And if you don't know what that means, that's fine. Just set a setting up here. Set the default style, and you wouldn't even ever have to worry about it. But anyway, yeah, this would work. So the way that it works is literally you sew out the first color, and then you put the vinyl down, you sew out the second color, you rip it away, and it's done. So that's pretty cool. Now, something else I want to talk about is ways that we can go and kind of stylize lettering designs like this. In particular, there's a font that I think is pretty neat what they do with it on the preview of it here. This retro cool font here. So if we look at this in DeFont, it looks like when we type in an R, it's going to do an underline, and then we could put an E on top of it. And the T has this cool stretched out part. And then the R can fit under that. But wait, this R doesn't have the stretched out part. And if we click on it and we look, the T, there isn't an option for a T with a stretched out part. So how are they doing that? Well, it's actually pretty easy if you have a software like ours. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and download this font. We're going to click download. And then I'm going to open the file that downloads. And remember, I'm looking for the TTF file. If you've got an option, you want to use the TTF over the OTF. If there's only an OTF, just use that. We're going to just double click on the TTF file. There it goes. Install. See, this is a very similar font to the Keep on Truckin' one that we downloaded. I'm just going to leave this tab open here so we can go and refer back to it. Or actually, I wonder if this graphic is the graphic that was in the zipped folder here. Let's see. Double click that. No, it's not. I could probably save it. No, it doesn't look like I can. We'll just leave that there just so we have a reference. But what we're going to do here is go back into Floriani. I'm going to create a new page. And we're going to bring in a TrueType font, import TTF artwork. And this time we're going to type the word retro, just like they had in there, retro. And I'm going to go and select a different font. We're going to select retro. Cool, there it is. Okay. And we're going to say OK. Now, I'm just going to make these a little bigger. Doesn't really matter that much what size they are for the purposes of this. But the first thing we want to do is we want to make this R longer. So how can we do that? Well, I'm going to move my etro out of the way and have just the R. And then what I want to do here is turn this into outlines so that I can see the nodes. Basically, if I just left click on this, it's a shortcut to my outline tool. And what we need is we need for this to be stretched out. And a quick and easy way to do that for an artwork object like this is simply to click and drag a box around some of the nodes like this, and then just left click and drag them. Now we've got this pulled out. Now our outline may need to be slightly adjusted. You know, it's possible that the kind of the shape gets messed up a little bit by this, and it's also possible that maybe we need this to be more of a curve here, right? We could get rid of this point. If we go and right click it and delete that point, then we could grab this line and pull it down, right? So you've got this kind of stylized curve there. Maybe now we don't even need this point. Right click and delete that point. Okay? It's up to you, however you want to do it. We can grab this and drag this out however far we need it. Now I'm able to take this E and place it on top of the R. Just grab this corner here and size it down. Look at that. And now the T, we're going to grab him, put him here. Right? Now we're going to take this shape. We're going to do the same thing. So if we zoom in, we can see, all right, here's the points we have to work with. I'm going to snag all of these points, and I'm going to move them over like this. Okay, I don't know if that's far enough or not. We'll see. We'll go ahead and grab the R and kind of tuck it up underneath the T. We just want to make it so that the bottom of it is kind of, well, I don't think it does even actually need to be completely level with that. We just put it under there, and then we grab the O and do the same thing. Now let's go ahead and use this as a reference. Let's see. Yeah, they actually do have the R level, the bottom of the R level with the rest of the letters, which, yeah, that does look better. We can see the T is significantly more stretched out than mine is, so we'll go ahead and move the O back out of the way, make it so that the R is level with the rest of it, and we'll make it a bit bigger. Okay, now if we decide the T needs to be stretched out more, we can do that here. We grab those same nodes and just drag them further out. And now we're going to go and grab this O and put it level with the other letters. And then if we wanted to make absolutely sure that these characters are all on the same level, we have alignment tools for that kind of thing. Now we need to be careful not to have the E, because the E needs to kind of stay hovering above the R. And there's a couple ways that we could do that. If we select everything except the E would work. We're going to select the R and then the T, the R and the O. And then we're going to go up here to our alignment tools. And we want to, let's see, no, I'm sorry, this one. And we want to align them to the bottom line. Bottom align selected objects, left click. And that makes sure that everything is perfectly on that same line. And then if we need to, we can nudge our E using the little nudge buttons here. And that looks pretty good. Now, we could do something like taking this and do that same technique to it, where we create the drop shadow for it, which I think would look pretty neat with this. Click on that. We'll make it a different color. Drag it into place. And we can fiddle around with it until we're satisfied. Look at that. That looks pretty cool. We can select the whole thing, right click, transform that and remove the overlap. Go in and grab our top letters, and we're going to move them last. Right click, move last. Okay, these are now separate sections. Grab all of this, make it a fill. Grab all of this, make it a mesh fill. Now, what if I didn't want to use a mesh fill? What if I want to use a motif fill? Well, you can do that, but motif fills tend to be very, very dense. So I would run a test of the motif fill that you want to use and just make sure that it's not too heavy. But yeah, we sew this out and we'll get something like that. So that's pretty cool. So I just wanted to show you some fun options that we can do with TrueType font artwork. and specifically doing that little drop shadow trick with the heat transfer vinyl, I think is pretty slick. So thanks for watching. Hope you learned something. I'll see you in the next video.